Time to list my top 15 roguelike slash roguelite games of all time. It was way harder to list these games than I thought, as I like all of these games for different reasons. There are also a few games on the list that might be surprising. One got released this year and two are in early access, but I have definitely seen enough of these games to have them on my list. Let's get to it. I want to start with two honorable mentions, as I think they will have a place on the list for me when they are released into 1.0. But as of now, the games are still lacking content and polish, and of course are in early access. The first one is Death Must Die. I think this game for me has the potential to be in the top 3. I really like how the game plays, the characters you can play, the equipment side of the game, and the gods and the powers they grant you. It all fits so well together and becomes a really addictive game loop. The other one is The Last Flame. I really like what this game is doing. It's basically an auto battler combined with Slay the Spire, and it works really well. There are so many parts to this game as you assemble a group of heroes, mold them into what you want as you progress and try to beat harder and harder enemies. As I mentioned, I have two games on the list in early access, but these two have not been out for as long and there isn't enough content and polish. I don't want to place them, they don't deserve that because they don't make it top 15 yet. I'll link my videos of both these games below if you want to know more about them. Okay, now for the current top 15 games. In 15th place I have Moonlighter. This is such a cozy game. The art style is pixelated but everything is kind of round, making it feel more inviting. The color palette is great as well, and in Moonlighter you run a shop during the day where you sell what you find at night during dungeon runs. It's a nice back and forth in the game as you have to put a value on things you find and want to sell and kind of gauge where the optimal price lies. There isn't anything groundbreaking about the game, it's just really well executed as the dungeons and bosses get progressively harder and your shop grows with upgrades, staff and other things to manage. In 14th place I have Wizard of Legend. There is something about co-op that makes games just better if you have a good friend to play them with. This is a game that would fall out of my top 15 if I had to play it alone, I think. I've had such a good time in co-op with this game, but I've never tried it by myself really. This is a really fast game where you throw spells and dodge a lot. I think you can bring 4 spells with you and pick up like 2 more, which gives you a lot of options and combinations that you can do. And it becomes even crazier when you have a second person with you. The bosses in the game are really hard and all belongs to different elements, so they require different strategies. And all the spells and bosses are boiled down to pretty standard elements. You have fire, water, earth, wind, lightning, and then there is an end game element called chaos. But yeah, the game is very straightforward. You choose spells, clear levels, fight bosses, and you move on to the next level and the next boss. And as you play, you unlock new spells. There are quite a lot in this game to kind of find how you want to play it, and then you have robes that have different stats. It's a perfect game to play with a friend. At number 13 I have Slay the Spire. This is the only card game on the list. I have heard that the new game Valtaro is really good, but I haven't had time to play it yet. When Slay the Spire came out, really defined the roguelike deck building genre and have inspired countless knockoffs. This is a challenging game with a lot of flexibility in the building aspect of the game. You have 3 characters that all play very differently, which gives you even more flexibility in how you want to approach the game. The game is perfect for short sessions or long ones, as time really flies when you play this game. The art style is very simple and clear, making everything in the game easy to see and understand. And I think this game is relatively easy to learn and understand, but very hard to master. So even if you're not the best at deck builders, you will have a good time in this game. In 12th place we have Rogue Legacy 2. The first game is the OG roguelite game, if I remember correctly, and the second game is a really impressive sequel. This should maybe be placed higher, but the game failed to capture my interest. I have a hard time pinpointing why, but the game really didn't speak to me all that much. The game's structure follows the first one very closely, with you doing runs with a character. When it dies, you upgrade your castle and continue on with a descendant of your previous character. The stats and perks are a random aspect, and then the new character will also have one of 13 classes attached to it. I like the game loop, it's a solid structure for the game, and it plays so well with excellent controls, hard bosses, hidden areas, relics to find, puzzles and traps to overcome. It has it all. The classes are very distinct from one another, not just with the weapons, but also with movesets and how you should play them to optimize them. A game well worth checking out, even if I couldn't quite enjoy it. Number 11 for me is Returnal. I just love the atmosphere of this game, the cryptic story, the eerie feeling the game gives you. All the unknowns in the game. The game just spoke to me, and I had chills throughout the whole game. And I still get them when I think about this game. The different biomes were a treat to play and well designed, but I think the game really needed some more content. A few more distinct biomes, and all of the biomes being a bit longer would have been perfect. I'm not a fan of reusing assets, and they reuse half of the game for the second part of the game. It makes sense from a story perspective, I guess, but I think it's a cheap way of making a game longer. The music is perfect in the game, adds a very important layer to the game. It really adds to the eerie, creepy atmosphere. The gameplay is great with a lot of interesting guns that are definitely outside the box. And I mean, the haptic feedback in the PS5 controller is amazing. Like, even when it rains in this game, you can feel it in the controller. It's so freaking cool. It's not the hardest game, but well worth a playthrough. And they have added a co-op, which is kind of cool. It makes the game way too easy, unfortunately. I wish they would have done more with the co-op, but at least they added it. And then they have also added an endless mode to the game. Can't be played in co-op, unfortunately, but some well-needed content for the game that get progressively harder and harder. Really cool. Don't forget to leave the video a like, it helps me out a lot. And consider following for more lists, reviews, and gameplay. Back to the list. In 10th place, I have Blaze Blue Entropy Effect. Damn, they really made a good game here. I really like this game. This released this year in January, but spent almost the entire 2023 in early access. I never played it in early access and instead waited for the final product, and it did not disappoint. This is a fast 2D roguelike game with some really cool characters. There are 10 in the game, and you will unlock a few pretty quickly, but after that it can take a while, so be careful with which you choose. I have no idea about the story in the game. It's kind of complicated, and I'm playing this game for the gameplay, not the story. But from what I understand, the game is not tied to the fighting game series. It's a standalone product, very focused around combos and flashy ones at that. All characters have very distinct styles, unlike Noelle, as she has 2 guns and can stay in the air for a long time, avoiding damage and dishing it out as well. And with a few upgrades, she just wrecks the enemies. And then you have Mai with her spear. She's awesome as well, perfect for keeping a bit of distance. And then they kind of have a cool system with your previous runs in the game, because when you die, your previous run will be kind of saved, the level and the core ability of your character you just played, and then you can use it in the next run with the next character, so you can have kind of 2 additional attacks with you from other characters. I'm butchering this, but it's a cool system and it works really well. Adds another layer to the whole experience and makes you play different characters as well. Really nice. In 9th place, I have Roboquest. I'm an FPS gamer at heart. I have spent thousands of hours in Halo and the Battlefield series, so I think this ranks a bit higher just because of that, it being an FPS. With that said, I think the game's fast gameplay and wide variety of guns make the game really fun. It gets really chaotic towards the later stages with so many enemies and things to avoid, and I think all gets a bit more interesting in first person, as you can't see everything that is happening. The encounters and enemy variety is good, the same goes for the guns. The letdown for me in the game is the bosses. They are way too easy and the fights are quick, which is a shame. The story in the game isn't much to talk about, but it is easy to understand and more lighthearted. It's fine. Most characters are robots in the game, so a bit of personality is missing, and no one character is memorable as a consequence, I would say, which is kind of a shame. The game's levels and cel-shaded art style really makes the game pop, and some really energetic tunes play all the time while you play. This game can also be played in co-op. On the contrary to other games on the list, I have never tried this in co-op, so I don't know how it is. I don't know how it's balanced. Maybe you just steamroll everything like in Returnal, but I don't know. I couldn't tell you. I have done a review of the game, obviously not the co-op part, but I'll link it below if you want to check that out. In 8th place, I have Dead Cells. This game to me feels like Castlevania on crack. It's like a modern take on Castlevania but with roguelike elements. In the game you have a ton of weapons and items, letting you as the player approach the game from whatever angle you want. It's really impressive how much you can put in a game and it still plays so well. The game is very smooth and hard. The game will kill you a lot. There are over 150 weapons / items / spells to find and use. So yeah, you will definitely find a playstyle you like in this game. And I like the game's non-linear progression, as you can access several different paths. Yes, it's not unique for this game, most games here do this, but you can really feel the mastery of the game as you progress through the levels and find the weapons you like and master them. But it's well executed. There are also several DLCs for even more content, and they aren't expensive at all, and certainly not if you pick it up at the right time on a sale or so. 7th place is taken by Vampire Survivors. I think you either love this game or you're not really interested in it at all. There isn't much happening in this game, as the game loop kind of boils down to moving and choosing upgrades. That is kind of what the gameplay is. It's kind of elegant that you don't need more to hook such a large player base, while big AAA games such like Suicide Squad fails miserably with years of development and many millions invested. It's so cool to see that smaller games can blow up, and yeah, I just love to see it. There is more to the game, absolutely. You have a ton of characters to unlock and play as. You have upgrades and synergies to try out. The items or weapons in the game and their synergies is a really cool concept. You have 10 slots and you need 2 weapons per super weapon, which means you can have 5 super weapons with you. So there are actually some strategy in what to pick and what to upgrade. But yeah, pure dopamine rush with you just wanting to try again, getting further, getting a better score, having the loot boxes explode. It's an addictive game that makes an hour feel like 5 minutes. Coming in at number 6, I have Enter the Gungeon. This is one of those games I have only played in co-op. It might be a fine experience in single player, but to me this is a co-op game, and oh boy is it a lot of chaos. You choose one of few characters and head down into the gungeon. The cool thing about this game is of course the guns. There are a ton of them in the game and most of them are crazy. The game is pretty hard with a lot of interesting enemies, and I mean bosses. Holy shit, they are some wild bosses in this game. Like, the design is hilarious, and I love that the game doesn't take itself seriously. It's perfect. As you progress further into the gungeon, there are a lot of crazy enemies and you will have so many projectiles on the screen, and if you play in co-op you have 2 moving characters that is firing as well. It is chaos at its best. There is of course a ton of secrets, characters and shops to find. It's a well put together game with a lot of character. In 5th place I have Halls of Torment. When I first saw this game, I was like, huh, how have I never seen this game before? It must have been released way back when. But no. It's the art style that the developers have chosen for the game. It really has that old school vibe to it. I think it's a really cool style. I was just expecting it to have been released ages ago. This, I would say, is the spiritual successor to Vampire Survivors. I think I like Halls of Torment more in every way. And keep in mind that Halls of Torment is still in early access. You have a lot of characters, all very unique. You have interesting maps, bosses and skills. The equipment system adds another layer to the characters, and how to retrieve items is interesting as well. Each run you have a well where you can extract 1 item per run. You'll have to complete a quest to be able to do this, but it means if you have found several items, you have to choose 1 to extract from that run, and you'll also lose it for the run you're on. Really cool mechanic. Like most titles here, the game is a well-oiled machine that is a lot of fun to play and will only get better with time, as it's not out of early access yet. And if you want to play today, there is easily 10 to 20 hours of gameplay, if not more, already in the game. In 4th place I have Soulstone Survivors. I have already done a video on this game called my new favorite roguelite, and it's true, and why it's placed so high. This one is also in early access, and I think you can easily spend over 50 hours in this game and you'll not have everything unlocked. Variety and build potential is Soulstone Survivors' biggest asset. You have 14 characters, all with 3 weapons that change how the character plays. Most characters have really interesting and distinct playstyles, or at least attacks. Mages are mostly the same but with different elements. Then you have your summoners, your ranged characters, you have melee, both slow and fast ones. One character is riding a freaking horse. It's crazy how much there are in this game. You also have a small skill tree that have account-wide buffs, and after you complete it, it grants you a personal skill tree for every character. And skills here will change how the character plays. It's really cool. Then you also have runes that you can equip, I think up to 7, and these will grant you different buffs. And on a run as you play, you'll of course level up. You level up really quickly in this game, and you become powerful quite fast. And after a while, you'll have skills that take up the entire screen almost. It's nuts. The game isn't perfect. I really don't like the map structure. There are a few maps in the game, but they're all basically the same map, just reskinned. All maps are a square box with a few obstacles in them. Very boring. Would have loved to see them do something else here. At the very least, a few maps that are bigger, maybe endless. I think the bosses in the game are a weak point as well. They are all too similar to each other. The game needs a bit more variety here. But yeah, the game is in early access, so much can change. They have a huge update coming for the game soon, which will change a lot. But overall, this game is just amazing with the amount of stuff that's in here and the amount of flexibility you have. It's crazy. In third place, I have Children of Morta. I think this might be the least roguelike game on this list, but still well within the scope of roguelite. Personally, I love this game. I've played it for so many hours. I think I've started over like 3 times with different friends. It's so good in co-op. If I would rate this game based on solo play only, I think this one would fall out of my top 10. I have never really enjoyed playing this game by myself as much as I do in co-op. The game feels like it's balanced for 2 people. With the playable characters, you get some really good synergies with 1 melee character and 1 ranged character. And the game is still hard in co-op as well. The progression is really good in the game, story-wise, character-wise, and the skills you unlock and the perks you get really makes a difference and really makes you feel more powerful. The other layer to this game is the story. The game's dark tale with the family you're playing in the middle of it. The storytelling of the game is really nice with a lot of attention to detail. I get that this might not be for everyone. And then you have the pixel graphics that are so nice with a very dark tone throughout the whole game, while you still have a lot of vibrant colors mixed in. It's a perfect match. A really lovely game. And in second place, I have Risk of Rain 2. I never played this one on release, and it never looked interesting to me. It just looked like a mess. So much going on the screen, and nothing really looked like it made sense. How wrong I was. When I finally got my hand out of my ass and tried the game, I couldn't stop. It's a very addictive game, and it starts off slow, but it picks up speed fast as you start killing enemies and picking up upgrades, and before you know it, there are enemies everywhere and you're slaughtering them or you're dying. There are a lot of characters in the game, and they all very weird, unconventional in their playstyle, and of course there are weird objectives to unlock them as well. It's a hectic experience as there are dozens of enemies trying to kill you at all times, and I love how the difficulty works in this game. The game is split into several stages, but you can stay on any stage for as long as you like. The catch is that as time goes on, the game gets harder and harder, and it carries over from stage to stage until you beat the game or you die. Love that design choice. And the developers are still working on the game 4 years after release. I think there have been 1 expansion and they have another one on its way. And I think there have been small updates that have been free as well. It's a really cool game, well worth playing. Number 1 is of course Hades. I don't know if I can say anything here that hasn't been said about this game, but nothing has really come out that beats this game for me. It's such a good game in every way, from the story, the setting, the gods and their abilities, the weapons, the supporting systems. It's a lovely experience that is phenomenal in every way. The art style is so crisp and distinct. To me, this is the ultimate roguelite experience, which makes it so hard because I'm so excited for the second one, and I just hope it lives up to my expectations. I haven't played every roguelike or roguelite game, so there might be a few games that are missing or you think should be on the list, but that's what the comment section is for. Thank you so much for watching, have an awesome day, and I'll see you in the next one.